But if you think about it, you have two options. You can either go back to them, you can either keep running like the cow, keep losing, even lowering your self esteem even more, be manipulated by them, abused, whatever's happening, fall into depression, dig the hole deeper, or you can suffer for a little bit, do the inner work, like the bull, run into the storm, do like the bison, run into the storm, work things that you need to work in yourself, and then eventually find somebody who treats you better, because you will be better, you will be healed, so therefore you will attract a better healed person. And then so a trauma bond can be formed. So I hadn't heard of trauma bonds before, so I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
So it says a trauma bond is a strong emotional connection or attachment to someone that develops over time with somebody who is abusive. So the abuser will treat you bad, not let you spend time with your family, for example. Criticizes you, but when you try to leave, he shows you lots of love. So he'll treat you like crap until he feels like you're about to go, and then he'll be like, "No, no, no, but I love you."
He or she.
Or she, yes.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the most common one. But I feel like that's pretty. You hear that. You see that in movies a lot, and you hear that talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Like you'll hear people, and the people will validate it by saying, "Oh, but when we're good, we're so good. It's so good when we're good. He's just the best. When he's not like that, he's the best, or she's like she's the best." And it's like you gave them control. What we spoke about earlier in the beginning. You
Yeah.
gave them the control, and they know they can just drag you along. And as soon as they feel that you don't want to come, they just put a little treat down on the floor, and it's exactly what it is, right?
Yeah.
They're just stringing you along.
Yeah. Yeah, and it sounds so bad, but it's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, so 3 signs that you might be in a trauma bond would be what you just said.
Treats?
No.
Oh.
Justifying.
Okay.
So, you spend a lot of time having to explain and justify your partner's behaviors to your friends and family. Just like you said.
Yep.
"Oh, but this. Oh, but that." Mhm. Boundaries. It's almost impossible to set boundaries with your partner because not only do they not respect your boundaries, they will have an incredibly hostile reaction to boundaries even being suggested.
Yeah, because then they feel like they're losing that control.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And the third one is jealousy. So we talked about a healthy kind of
Acceptable
jealousy,
jealousy.
acceptable. But this one is your partner finds it very difficult when you receive love and affection from other people because they are usually the ones responsible for your self-esteem. So they want to be the person responsible for raising it and for lowering it whenever they want.
Yeah. They feel like they put all this work into getting your control, and they see somebody else um going against their work when they're showing you love.
Mhm.
Because then they're helping that person. When a person feels love, their self-esteem is impacted, right?
Mhm.
They start to build a little bit of self-esteem, and that person's like, "Hey, I did all this work to be able to control this person. Don't come in here and try to just do it like that." Like
Yeah.
they're literally brainwashing you, and
Yeah.
then somebody's coming in and you know messing up their brainwash.
Mhm. I
So
remember, like, cause I've always been very, like, I guess, like, a girl's girl, like, when it comes to my friends. And if they were, like, ever in a relationship where I felt like they were being mistreated, I was always like, "No, you deserve better," and, like, I would tell them, and I knew their boyfriends hated me, like, if they were, like, in an actual abusive relationship, cause and, like, they would tell me, "Yeah, my boyfriend doesn't like you," and I'm like, "Well, I don't like him either." I wasn't the healthiest person back then, right? I'm not saying
yeah.
that that was the right thing to do, but I would see it, like, anytime anyone would try to tell someone, like, "Hey, you deserve better. Hey, this is not okay." They would get mad, obviously, because they're like, "Hey, you're messing up," like you said. Like, "I control this person, leave her alone."
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, I've also seen, like, people who are, like, scared of their partner, like, to a point where it's like, "Oh, I broke a dish. Oh, I did this." And it's like an over exaggerated
Oh, okay.
they don't want them to know.
Yeah, or like, there's like, oh, I gotta get home before he gets home from work type of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
feels
always
weird.
thought that was weird.
Yeah.
Do you have notes on why that is, or we're just gonna dive into this?
I just said, like they're constantly preoccupied with what they might do next. They're scared. So there's an intense fear of the abuser, right? So they are worried the person may find out about something they did, even if it's something normal. Like I said, like, oh, they broke a dish or they weren't home on time or
Yeah.
they just spoke to a family member. Like that's a big one. Like if my mom called me today, you were like upset that I talked to her, that would be very weird, right? So it's things that should be normal and but they're not okay with it and they're scared. Like it's an actual fear. Um and the person starts hiding stuff from them. They're like, no, please don't tell him. Oh, I don't want him to know. I've also like had some friends like that too. Um so that's what I have for that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that could come from an abandonment thing. They felt like they didn't have anybody. Somebody showed them love, and they gave them that control. So their inner child was felt. When you have that abandonment as an inner child, any little thing feels like you're going to be abandoned again. Any argument, like I spoke on last time, it becomes an extreme. So even if it becomes that extreme, even if it's like that person didn't originally be like, hey, why isn't dinner cooked when I get home? Maybe they mentioned it one day, and in their head, that person with the inner child of abandonment trauma hears that. They're like, oh my goodness, like they're going to leave me if I don't have it done. And then you enable that person with some power. And then that's just, you created a dynamic in your household if you're the trauma person. So it's not always the Trump, the controlee, the controller.
The controller. Yeah, the person being controlled.
Sometimes it's the person being controlled that enables all of that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because honestly, you teach a person how to treat you. A person's gonna treat you based on what you allow.
Yeah.
And people are always trying to see how far they can push that line. So if you don't stand up for yourself and you're like, hey, you're not crossing this line, they're gonna keep pushing and pushing. And the more they push and the more they see that they can step all over you, the less respect they have for you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll give you another shout out. Like I've seen where you have people who come around you know your boundaries. That's you branded your boundaries already. They'll be like, no, it'd be like, hey, we're gonna go out to eat. Oh, they're not gonna go out to eat. They gotta eat healthy all the time and stuff. Or even like I remember one time it was for a photo shoot and they're like, oh, why don't you hold a cigar? You're like, I don't condone smoking. And they were just like, oh, never come up again. That person doesn't, that I've seen, smoke around you. So because you set that boundary right away. And it was something so simple, right? It was a fake cigar. They could look at being so simple, but you have those boundaries in place already. So that's why you branded yourself with those boundaries. And I'm sure the people listening to this follow you because they get that sense already from you, like that these are the boundaries. So you've done an amazing job at that.
Thank you.
So this whole podcast is just me hyping you up.
Well, same to you. I'll hype you up too, but I do love that you're a very understanding person. So you don't dismiss me or my feelings, but at the same time, you're like, this is where the line is, and I'm not gonna let you cross it. Like you're not gonna step all over me, or you're not gonna over exaggerate something. Like this, and this, but this is where it stops. And that makes me respect you so much more, because when guys are just like, oh my god, I'm just so like lucky to be here, you can do whatever you want, you can say whatever you want, the woman loses respect for that kind of man. Like no woman
lost respect for himself.
Yeah. So yeah, the woman doesn't respect them. And if you're the guy who's like very dismissive, like right away, doesn't even listen, like also loses respect from that person. So so that's like exactly what. And you'll talk to any woman and she'll tell you, yeah, like I want someone who listens to me, who understands me, but at the same time is not a pushover. And I think that's so attractive about you.
Well, good. Yeah, just to speak on that a little bit more, the person who is dismissive, never creates that safe space for their person. So say it's a guy who's dismissive, you never create that safe space for your woman to feel like she can share with you, and that doesn't allow her to be in her feminine energy. So she's never gonna be everything she could be as that feminine partner that you need.
Yeah.
So when you start blocking that, you start blocking blessings, right? Because God designed us to be together, for the man to be masculine, the woman to be feminine. We do have some feminine in the male, and there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make them anything wrong with them. And some women all women have some masculine in them, and that's the way we're made. That's the way we're supposed to be. But when you start blocking that from each other, you start driving them into the other energy, and then that's when you're stopping them from being who they're supposed to be. You're making them be something they're not.
Yeah.
So when you're being dismissive, you lose that safe space. They don't feel that safe space. You lose the feminine energy. They don't feel the love they're supposed to feel, and then they can't respect you the way they're supposed to. So it becomes a snowball effect. Yeah. So it's important to not be just dismissive.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be that person anyway that's like, they're like, dude, that dude's always mad. That dude's always complaining. Or it just, when you see something and you're just like, why are you together? Why are you like that? Or I'd be like, you just let them talk to you like that? You just whatever? So, yeah, do better.
Yeah. And I also had notes about what you said earlier, how they're constantly preoccupied with what they might do next, if like they might leave them or if they might find somebody else better than them. That's also another thing of them not feeling safe. Like that person never made them feel safe in their relationship. Like I know with you, I never have to wonder. Versus a man who doesn't feel his woman feel safe, she might be like wondering, where is he at? What is he doing? Is he going to find somebody else? Because he didn't provide that safe space for her.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'll get a little bit personal on this one. Growing up, I experienced a lot of loss. I went through a lot of loss, a lot of different things that could have made me have these big traumas. And how you said getting into the relationship, like you never seen me be like, oh, she's getting all this attention on social media, everywhere we go, people turn heads and all this. You never felt that jealousy from me. And I didn't feel it in me either. It wasn't something that I just mashed down or anything. But this is where I speak. It could have been a trauma, right? And it could have been like a trigger for a trauma. But you made sure that I was secure in my relationship, that I knew I was number one, and there wasn't anything that was coming between us. And I hope that I always did the same. But that's why it's so important to get with somebody who's either healed or healing and is self-aware of things, right?
Yeah.
So you created a safe space, and that allowed me for whatever triggers could have popped up, or whatever trauma because everybody has trauma in some way, shape, or form. Whatever trauma I did have from experiencing so much as a child, it was never. I had a safe space, and I had a space to share things with you.
Yeah.
So that just shows how much of a safe space it really was, right? That you're able to open up and share.
Yeah.
So shout out to you for creating that safe space.
Oh, thank you, love.
Yeah.
Well, same to you. But yeah, I've always tried to like make sure, like I don't flirt with other men. I don't open up doors. I try like I'm like very
You
like
close the windows.
I close the windows. Why are you talking to me? Do not even look at me. No, not like that, right? But
yeah,
I feel like I'm intentional with it. I try to make sure like if I feel like someone's stepping out of line, like even I'll tell you, or you know, I'm very open. Like I never try to hide anything from you.
Right. And we created excuse me. You do that. I reciprocate it. A lot of this stuff, shout out to you again. A lot of this stuff, I didn't know the science behind it and stuff. It was just something that I was just like growing up. I was like, hey, I had to be headstrong. I gotta figure things out. But you understood things in a little bit better sense than me at times, and you would be like, hey, that's this, and I'm like, I just thought that's how it was, and like we were able to grow because of that. So I'm very fortunate. I know that I was blessed with an amazing woman who has an amazing head on her shoulder. The reason y'all are listening to this podcast is because the knowledge she has, right? It's not because you want her husband to come on here and just ramble all day, but it's a blessing of what God gave you, the wisdom and the counsel you have, and I get to experience it firsthand every single day. But you helped me grow so much, and now you're doing it for other people. So that's really, really cool.
Thank you. Well, we're growing together. You've helped me too. And that's you created that safe space for me too that I needed.
Good job, us. Nah, but I hope that somebody who might be going through something or feels like, you know, like, hey, I have these traumas. I hope that this shows you that we weren't I definitely wasn't perfect from the beginning, and
nobody is.
Yeah, and there's if you feel like there's not hope because you feel like there's something wrong with you, you're absolutely incorrect. Work, understand you got to do some work, and you'll create something amazing.
Yeah, it's like I'm thinking of some people right now that come to mind, and they know they need to work on certain things, but it's so painful for them to go back there, and that's what stops them. So I don't know, like I'm just thinking like I just to those people, like I'm obviously I'm gonna be praying for them, but I don't even know what to tell them, like how to encourage them, because I know it's painful to go there. I know, but I've said this before, it's gonna get ugly before it gets pretty.
Yeah. Oh man, I could say you grow through pain. Don't be, I'm not calling anybody fat. Don't be a cow, be a bison. Why?
Okay, you gotta explain that.
Why is that? What is that analogy, right?
Yeah.
When a storm is coming, a cow runs. A bison is the only one. So don't be I'm not calling anybody fat, but don't be a cow, be a bison. Why? Because if you know the analogy, a cow runs from the storm. When a storm's coming, what does a bison do? It turns and runs into the storm because it knows the quickest way to get through that. And if you're a cow and you're running away from the storm, you're going to run forever. A bison understands you run through the storm, you get out to the other side. Rich Froning, if you're a person who likes fitness or anything, or you're probably going to know who Rich Froning is. That's why his logo, his brand is Into the Storm. That means to face adversity head on. So that's what you have to do for growth. And that's what you have to do for inner growth, for outer growth, physical growth, mental growth, everything. You have to face into the storm.
I love that. Yeah. It's actually perfect. Yeah. That's what, because I'm thinking, and I have this very specific person in mind.
Yeah, I have some people in mind too that came up.
Yeah, and I'm like this person wants to, right? She wants to get help, but it's so painful for her to go back there, and that's the perfect way to say it. Hey, look, just go into it, get it done, and you're gonna come out so much better. It's gonna take less time than if you keep running, because if you keep running, you're gonna keep running into the same wall.
Yeah, you've been running into. Doing it. You're potentially their whole life already.
Yeah.
Try something different.
Yeah, and that's why we do this. Like everything we say with love. We want the best for you guys. We just want to encourage you guys to do the inner work, because it affects you so much, and a lot of people don't realize it. They don't realize I need to go into the storm in order to find that right person. I need to go into the storm to heal from this.
Yeah. I have so many quotes I could say about
go for it. Say them all.
No, I mean, I was just gonna, if you want to look at it a different way, when people can, if you've ever done a diet, if you've ever cleaned up your eating habits or anything like that, everybody tells you, oh, the first 2 weeks it's so hard, then it gets a little bit easier. If you've ever gone on a run, you hit that point to where you're like, oh, my side hurts, or I just feel like, but then you hit that second win, that runner's high, because you faced that adversity and you kept going and you broke through. I keep going on different things about this, but the whole point is face it.
Yeah.
You don't have to face it alone. There's counselors. You're never alone. You got God. You pray to Him. Seek for that help, that counselor, that even if it's a friend that you're using as a counselor, I recommend somebody who has done some trainings to give you the best tools and best advice so that they don't just push another trauma on you.
Yeah, because if it's just a friend, you could be what they call trauma dumping.
Yeah.
Also, the friend may not even know how to respond to, or they might give you bad advice. So it's better to go to somebody who's professional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for sure, face it.
But even then, I was gonna say some psychologists today.
Oh, don't get me started on the people today.
Yeah. If we always say Christian counselors. That's when we say go to therapy, we're talking about Christian counselors. Just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
And the whole psychology thing, we'll go into it in another episode because we got a lot to say about that.
This episode was brought to you by BCN Supplements, our all-natural supplement company. First off, we have our hydrolyzed collagen. This is a 4-in-1. It comes with vitamin C for better absorption, hyaluronic acid, and biotin. So this is good for your skin, your hair, your nails, and your joints. And this is for both men and women. Next up, we have our Immunity, which is a 7-in-1 vitamin. It has vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, echinacea, elderberry, black pepper, and garlic bulb. So this will give your immune system that extra boost. And lastly, we have our natural pre-workout. It does have 325 milligrams of natural caffeine from green tea. It is sweetened with stevia, and its purpose is energy, focus, and endurance. And for our listeners, we do have a discount code. If you visit our website, www.bcnsupps.com, you can use code BUILT, BUILT, for 10% off. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, and I know the therapist, but I personally like the term counseling because it's you're getting the guidance from them, you're getting tools from them, you're getting that counsel that we're called by God to have as a counsel. You're supposed to have your counsel, the people you go to in those tough decisions.
Yeah.
So it doesn't ever make you weak. It doesn't make you feel, it shouldn't demasculate you for opening up and talking about people. It takes so much more to do that, to face that storm and go through it, than it does to run away and just push that on other people.
Yeah.
If you feel like, oh, I'm too manly to open up, or I can't go talk to these people, or I'm a man, I'll figure it out. It's not the way to do it. It's really not. All you do, you can create generational trauma from that, and then your kids are going to be dealing with that trauma, and your grandkids, just because you weren't man enough to go seek some help.
To me, that's just not a very smart person when somebody says something like that.
Yeah.
Because you could get ahead so much faster if you would just listen to good counsel. But yet you want to sit there and figure it out and take so much longer, possibly, right? Maybe you never even get there because you don't have the right tools. And again, the Bible talks about wisdom. Ecclesiastes, I think it's 10:10, talks about how the man has an axe and he knows that he needs the axe to cut down the tree. But he needs wisdom to know that he needs to sharpen the axe and where exactly to hit the tree. Otherwise, he's going to stand there hitting the tree all day long with the dual axe, and it's never going to happen. Versus if you just listen to somebody who's trying to help you or ask God for wisdom, you can get a whole lot further in less time.
You want another analogy?
What?
So there's two men who are cutting down trees, right? They got to cut down these big old trees. One man, they both start swinging. They got 4 hours. They both start swinging. 1 hour in, first guy disappears. He leaves. Second guy stays swinging and swinging and swinging. Hour 2 comes. Hour 3 comes. 3.5 hours go by. First guy comes back, and he catches up to that guy. He actually cuts down the tree faster. And he's like, where did you go? How did you get this tree cut down so fast? He's like, well, you spent those just wasting yourself away, just repetitiveness. I want to go sharpen my axe to cut this tree down.
I heard something similar.
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was or what, but
it was probably me.
It might have been the same story, but it was something I think somebody said if I have 7 hours to do something, I'm going to spend 6 of those hours sharpening the axe.
Yeah. And it's from that analogy. It's just when you said it about the axe. And I'm sure that's where that analogy comes from. It's from the Bible.
Yeah, because that's the oldest book, probably.
Yeah, I'm not the owner of that analogy, but I will take credit if you want to say I heard it from you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff we're saying, we learned it from somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we didn't come up with it. We've listened to a lot of people. We've done a lot of work ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of these moments have been aha moments for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So another thing, going back to how we were saying, like, how do you know if you're like in a toxic relationship or like you're with an abuser? Another thing is that sometimes that person will minimize or make an excuse for their partner's behavior. Like, for example, let's say like they go visit the family and the partner's rude to your family, and then that person tries to justify it instead of like admitting that what that person did was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And they try to justify like, oh no, it's because my family,
or they had a long day at work, or they're very stressed out, type of thing.
Yeah, or yeah, my family doesn't know how to talk to him. They just upset him all the time. Like, they'll blame other people or like try to make excuses for them.
Mm-hmm. So they're enabling bad behavior,
right?
That's
Another thing could be alienation. So they won't allow you to talk to certain family members, and not because the family members are interfering or stepping out of line or anything like that. They just usually, when you bring a person around, the first people to be able to see if the person's not good for you is your family and your friends.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes if this person is an abusive person, the family might pick up on it before that person does.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll try to tell the person, and they'll try to talk the person out of dating this person. So obviously the abuser's going to be like, I don't want you to talking to them anymore. And then they'll alienate you from your family and friends.
Okay. Yeah.
I was thinking like, what would be an exception to that? So an exception would be if like you have a family member who hurts you, like emotionally, or it's just like,
yeah, I was thinking in the same sense.
Yeah, or like they interfere too much, or they're not good for you. Like there's a difference, right?
Yeah.
Like if your family is simply saying, we don't like this about this person, versus they're mistreating you or like instigating or stepping out of line. Like, you should have discernment to know when they're trying to protect you and when they're being abusive.
Yeah, so I think a good thing on that is, first part, when they're coming to you, how are they coming to you? Is big. However you deliver a message can affect however it's received. So there's two parts to that, right? There's the person coming from the family, and then there's the person who's in that relationship. Since we're using that example, so the person that's coming from in the family, do some work and make sure you're coming correct. Make sure you're not coming in and attacking that person that's in the relationship, or necessarily attacking the other person, but find some tools, talk to somebody who's a little more equipped than you are if you're not equipped to know how to communicate to somebody in there. Don't just come in and be like, hey, I don't like him. I don't like her. Nah. F this, blah, blah, blah. Come in there and be like, hey, I love you. I'm just looking out for you. I don't want you to take this the wrong way. I see this. I could be wrong. Something along those lines. So you make sure you're showing it's coming from a loving place, and the person listening, use some discernment. What type of person are they? Because we've even said before, sometimes people will be jealous and just say stuff, right? So use your discernment, like you said. What type of person are they? What's your relationship with them? Use some track history of that person. Are they a credible person to be calling anybody out on anything? Or are they overbearing and just trying to control you? So like I said, there's two parts to that, right? The person who wants to give some advice or something, needs to make sure that they're coming and doing it in the correct manner. And the person receiving needs to receive it and say, what are they telling me? Why are they telling me? And then from there, you should factor in what the next best route is, right? Listen to them and let me do some self-work. Let me do some self-reflecting, or reflecting my relationship, or hear what they're saying and be like, this doesn't sound like they have my best interest. Yeah.
Just curious about your opinion. Like, if someone close to you is dating someone and you're like, I don't think that's the best person for them, would you say something, or would you just be like, oh, they need to learn on their own?
again, two parts. Somebody close to me is dating somebody. I'm a big believer in not stepping in where I'm not asked to step in.
Okay.
Second part would be, first part may go out if I see that it's an extreme case. And I know you know that I'm a pretty firm believer about I'm not going to put my nose where I don't feel it belongs. So if they ask me, or if I see and I have a conversation with this person and I see there's some kind of something that kind of opens up that conversation, I'll be like, hey, is everything good? Is it really where you want to be? What's your plan? Whatever leads, I won't just go straight into it and be like, hey, girl probably ain't it for you, bro. Like, I might not do that, but if like we're talking and they're like, man, this happened, or they might ask for the advice or something, then I'll be like, you want my honest opinion? This is how I see it, and I'm coming from the outside, so I could be wrong, and it could be out of context. It's just from what I've seen, but it looks like this to me. Maybe y'all need to talk it out. Maybe you need to do some self-reflecting. Are you causing this? Are they causing this? Or am I completely off bases? And I've actually had to kind of step in and I don't think I was necessarily asked, but the opportunity came up for me to go in and talk to the two people. And I just used things that I learned. And I 100% the whole time I was like, this is just coming from me. I, take it at what it is for what it's worth, but still seek a counselor.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, I think you're pretty good about not giving advice when nobody asked.
Yeah.
I'm not that good.
Well,
I'm very if I care about you, I'm gonna sit you down, I'm gonna talk to you, you're gonna hear about it, which is probably not the best thing for me to do, right? But yeah, you're pretty good about that.
Yeah, I'd say I have that because of the gym, that I don't just step in and tell people what to do. Why? Because I have years of experience in the gym to where I learned how to lift properly for me, for what I'm trying to do when I'm in the gym. And I see so many people with, possibly bad form, or I see that like, hey, that if you change your technique or you tweak this or that a little bit, you'd probably feel it a lot more, get better results. But I don't go and just start telling people what to do, because I don't want nobody to go in there and just be like, hey, nah, dog, you don't know what you're doing. You need to fix this, do that.
Yeah.
So, but if there is times when I'll be like, hey, bro, have you ever tried it like this?
Okay.
And then that opens it. So you'll get right away, do they want my advice or do they not? You know what I mean? So it's the same way. It's the same. Use those tools and put it in practice in somewhere else, right? So that's what I say. Like when that opportunity arose, because they were talking about the relationship to me, I was like, "What do you want to know what I think, or are you just like dumping this all out on me because you need to get it out?" So then,
yeah, I think I'm not as good as you are, because as women, we tend to share a little bit more with each other. So sometimes like they'll stop telling me because they already know what I'm gonna say. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you gonna do about it? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna be like, well, is that the best thing for you? And I don't do it from like a judgy place or trying to control them place. I'm like, I'm telling you this because I love you and I want the best for you.
Yeah.
But it's not always well received.
Yeah. I always, at the end I take it back to Hodge twins. At the end of the day, this is just our advice. Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. And yeah, that's true. And they are going to do whatever they want to do at the end of the day.
And you have to accept that when you give that advice too. Yeah. Understand that just because you think it was the right thing doesn't mean that they thought it was the right thing for them.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's their life. They have free will.
Yeah.
And they're gonna learn sooner or later.
Yeah. And if they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
Take care of your four walls first.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. So we're talking about alienation. Another one is sometimes that person, whenever they're in an abusive relationship, they depend on the abuser for their self-worth. So even if they're doing good without them, they want that specific person to tell them that they're doing good or that they're attractive. Like even if other people are telling them, it doesn't feel like that void. They want to hear from that one person. And then like even if they break up, they still want that person to validate them. So they won't like delete them from their socials because they want to show them that they're doing good. Like they need that validation from that one person.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that one just goes back to what I've said again about control. And I think there's a lot to unpack there. Why does that one person have all that? Why can't they let go? Why is everybody else's that's close to them, that loves them, not heard? Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that.
Yeah, and that person knows that with one quick message, they can bring their self-esteem down, or they can like just, you said, give them a little treat, and they'll have them there again.
Yeah, I was thinking more of the person who's getting the treat, not the person giving the treat.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's, I guess, if you grew up not knowing what love is, your parents didn't show you what actual love is, you think what that person showed you is love. So sometimes they don't know anything else. Sometimes they're like you said, but when it's so good, but when it's good, it's so good. So they think that that's what love is. They don't know how to tell the difference between being manipulated versus actually being loved.
I had a train of thought, and then you started talking about not experiencing love. That's why it's important to find God.
Yeah.
Find His love.
Yeah.
See what true love, a love like no other, will feel like. And then you can start finding that partner, because you'll know what true love feels like, and you'll know how to accept it, and you're given the tools in the Bible.
That's another one, accepting it. Because some people, since they're not used to real love, when real love comes around, they push it away because they don't understand what it is. They're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And they don't feel like they're worthy of it.
Yeah.
Nobody ever treated them good. So someone comes along, treats them good, and they're so confused. They're like, wait, what's happening? What is this?
Yeah. On that, right back to where I was at. Find God. We're not worthy of being saved. We weren't worthy for Jesus to give His life on the cross. We were sinners, right? But God loved us so much that He did. He said, you are worthy because I deem you worthy. I love you that much that you are worthy. And we're worthy because of what He did, not who we are. So then when you can feel that, and you can start seeing that God loves you because you're a creation of God. You're made in His image. We were created to be loved. Then I think that can also help them learn with acceptance. And it's easier said right now than done, right?
Right. Yeah, but it's true. It's true when you understand what God's love is.
An agape love.
You're able to recognize what real love is and it's not with a person. So going back to how I was saying, how even if they're broken up, they still have that attachment to them. It could also be said it's kind of like when you're addicted to drugs and you want that back because you're so used to the highs and lows. So again, a trauma bond, right? And so the key to breaking this bond is recognizing that symptoms of distress when you are apart is not in any way, shape, or form correlated to being together. So just because you're feeling distressed because you're not together doesn't mean you're supposed to be together. So it doesn't mean that just because you suffer doesn't mean like you're going to be better off with that person.
So they rationalize, like, if something bad happened in a day and they're not together with that person, they're like, oh, it's because we're not together.
No, they miss the person, right? So they're sad, they're heartbroken, they're suffering. So they think, in order for me not to suffer, I need to be with this person.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. But if you think about it, you have two options. You can either go back to them, keep losing.
Run like the cow.
Right. You can either keep running like the cow, keep losing, even lowering your self-esteem even more, be manipulated by them, abused, whatever's happening, fall into depression, just dig the hole deeper. Or you can suffer for a little bit, do the inner work, like the bull, run into the storm.
It wasn't a bull.
A bison?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Do like the bison, right? Run into the storm, work things that you need to work in yourself, and then eventually find somebody who treats you better, because you will be better. You will be healed. So therefore you will attract a better healed person.
Yeah. Knowledge. Mic drop.
Yeah. And those are all the notes I have for today's episode. All right. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. That way you get notified. Also hit the bell for the notifications. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so it would really help if you would subscribe. Make sure to give it a like and send it to someone who you think might need to hear this. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you for tuning in to Build from the Inside Out.